Hi, welcome to See This Summarized channel. This series begins with news about a possible nuclear war. We are in a modified version of America in the year 2077, and some people are late at a party, standing around the television and listening to the news. The president has disappeared, and there may be nuclear bombs that will be dropped soon. The party is continuing, and the advertisements on the television are running. The main characters so far is Cooper Howard, who is asking the children with the throwing rope, and when they entered inside Cooper and the other people, they saw with horror when a nuclear bomb exploded, and the world as we know it was over. When the bomb exploded, all the people ran to the nearby safe. There were critical and chaotic moments for a while, and although some people were able to get down, other people tried to escape in their cars. Cooper went on the back of a horse, but he looked confused because there were many nuclear explosions. The scene changes, and we go 219 years later, and we start looking after Lucy McLean, and she knows how to do everything. Her skills are good in everything except using weapons, which she is not strong at. She is strong at it. She lives in the, say, 33 far underground. She spoke to the council and asked them for permission to participate in the three-way trade with the Vault 32. All three members said yes. We see Lucy preparing to meet her future husband, standing with the other people at the entrance to the Vault 32. Her cousin Chet is not happy that she is going, but it is his idea that relatives are allowed, if not something they're supposed to continue. When the doors of the vault open, we get to know Lee Maldifer, who is clearly the supervisor of Vault 32, and Lucy's groom, one named Monty. He's not a monster, but Lucy is not at ease and starts asking him embarrassing questions at dinner, but they are cut off by the authorities, who believe that the roof will be fine now for the children of Monty and Lucy, who will be able to start populating the planet on the surface, but they warned him that they do not know what is above, and the joy is over, and the time for seriousness has come for Lucy and Monty, but without them knowing, there are many men and women in Vault 33. Conditions in the vault next to them have deteriorated. All of their food has been destroyed, their inventory is gone, and the whole place is gone. It was a mess. Lucy's brother Norman actually went in to investigate and found the former supervisor being killed. Lucy suspected that something was wrong when she heard a scream outside, and here she knew the terrible mistake she had made. These men attacked and entered their house. Monty and Lucy fought, but when the alarm started screaming, Lucy took advantage of the opportunity and punched Monty in the brain. I discovered that she was also injured in her side. She was still wearing her wedding dress. She went out and was holding her side for a few seconds, but she was able to resist and kill the attackers next to her. Unfortunately, the attackers overpowered the people of the safe, and then they remained facing the diver mall. She decided to offer Hank and the other two people a choice: either she leaves or she leaves a group of people inside the safe. There was no choice. So Hank locked his daughter in a closet, sacrificed himself, and took her to the real world. At the same time, the astrologer from the safe gathered for a meeting. Tarek Lucy wanted to start a search team to find her father. The other people refused, so it was Norman's turn to help open the door and leave his sister. She goes out, and when Lucy went out to the new world, she looked around and was shocked by what she saw. The world is full of corpses and bones scattered on the ground, and the whole place is in ruins, but they are also next to the coast, and there are the remains of a pier. I mean, at least this ruin looks beautiful. Then we meet a new character, one named Maximus. He lives on the roof, and he happens to be one from the group of Steel. He is part of the ranks of a faction that wants to try to restore a semblance of order and prosperity to the world. The teacher, Felix, is not happy with Max's ignorance of the subject and quickly hits him on the bug. When I speak, Maximus sidles up on the sidelines, and for things to get worse, his only friend, Danny, has actually been promoted so that he can go to the wilds with his friends. This was it. It was difficult for Max to accept him, especially since his colleagues in the Steel were bullying him and treating him as if he did not exist. Max was not happy, but in the morning he turned up in a very bad condition. Someone threw razor blades inside his boots and ruined his chance. Unfortunately, the authorities believed that Maximus was the one responsible for this, and they took him and asked him about the injury. Maximus admitted that he really wanted this to happen, but he did not do that. Maximus admitted that he did not want to be weak and wanted to be one of them, and when he was ready to sacrifice everything for the group and ready to do everything for them, he received an unexpected promotion, took Danny's place as a knight. Maximus would see Danny. He admitted that he actually told them that Maxi could not harm his daughter, and they looked at each other with a wave of guilt on Maximus's face. But in general, after that, Maximus joined the group properly and told them about their upcoming mission, which had a desired goal, and with knight's armor for them to wear. Maximus knew one of the residents of Inglass escaped. This man has something that has the potential to harm their nation greatly, so they must stop him. No matter what happens, this news has reached other people in the wilderness as well. Among them are some sound bandits. Here, they approached a solitary ghoul, and what emerged was Cooper, who appeared in the beginning of the episode and was running on his horse. He is a professional sniper and a ghoul who kills bandits without doing anything. He is very worried and walks away. After that, we meet a new character, one named Wilzig, who works with a group of elite scientists. They produce first-class dogs. If the pup is way below a certain weight, they will be killed. The ultimate goal here is clear. They're trying to make a type of serum, and this is what we will know later. But now Wilzig injected himself with this little pill, and it appears CX-404 is the name of his perfect dog and the one who raised him when he was young, and we see him protecting Wilzig and killing another scientist who came and sounded the alarm when he saw what Wilzig had done, and before he spoke to me, he notices his presence and will stick C. This could cause her death, and she must adapt to this world. Must adapt, and he warned her that her priorities could change when she remained a completely different animal. Quickly disappeared, and Lucy continued to light fire despite his warnings. Thank God, nothing came close to her. And the husband left with CX-404, but they were side by side. Radioactive waste. His dog had a severed hand, and the bone next to him was a warning sign about the presence of a more threatening creature in the area. This happened at the same time that Maximus found himself in the house of the knight Titus. They arrived at the opening of a cave, and a climber with a large rifle. They entered inside it together. Titus stood behind him and asked Maximus to turn around. He entered the cave to meet the enemy, and he was doing this. The enemy appeared behind the brother knight, and he ran outside the cave and allowed himself to be cut by a giant mutant bear. Titus mocked Maxim constantly after he struck the creature with a fatal blow, to the point that Maximus decided that he did not deserve the armor, and here Maximus decided to take the armor for himself and leave the man. He bleeds and dies, and then he answers the target as well in order to prove his honor. In the morning, Lucy arrives at an abandoned house and wants to ask the directions of the man. He was strange and pointed out that Philly, which is the nearby city, is on the plateau, but is very dangerous. When he said that he had not seen her father either, the man offered himself to be the father of Lucy's children. He tried to sell this dilapidated house and offered her a beautiful life, but Lucy politely rejected the offer. Lucy arrived at the same forest where Maximus was and walked behind the people and tried to find Philly. While she was there, she attracted the attention of the ogre, who was watching from afar. Lucy reached the nearby loader and asked about the Maldives. First thing she did was that she changed. She warned Lucy that she had to walk, otherwise things would get worse for her. When Lucy left the store, by chance, another husband, and it turned out that he knew a lot about Her history warned her that the world was very different here compared to the closets, and their small meeting attracted the attention of the ghoul, and whoever decided to do the same was welcome. It was a shower for whales. Zig, and the bounty on his head. Magoon, the owner of the store, is clear that he paid her a large pile of hats which he made instead of money in Fallout in order to provide safe passage for Philly the ghoul. He did not wait for a response, and instead of doing so, he cut off a leg and covered it with bullets and put a glass cap on the ghoul's brain. A big quarrel broke out in the country. We see the powerful power that Cooper possesses. During all this, Lucy entered the store and searched in John's records. The moment the name Maldive was called, as she was looking around, she saw a gun hanging on the wall and decided to take it for herself. When she went outside, face to face with the ghoul, she tried to kill him, but the decisive moment came from Maximus, who appeared at the same time. The thing with his armor and protecting Luce from the fatal blow was the ghoul's job for a while. As they were moving in the main square, Yod and Lucy worked together to get whales inside Magan. She brought her colleague Barf to fix a bad man, and it seemed like she succeeded and installed a bronze metal leg for him. And when Maximus lost control of his suit, he found himself dead. He is not able to fight the ghoul at the level he is supposed to be at, and it is clear that he must raise the level of the ghoul. On the one hand, he repaired the dog C. We go to Lucy and Will Zig, and we find him far away in the wilderness, and they look like they walked a long distance far from their previous place. Will Zig decided to surrender and drink a serum in order to kill himself, and he told Lucy before he died that she would bring his brain back to the Maldiver and change the future. Then we go back to flashback to the beginning, again with this Cooper before the nuclear war, and on the set of a Western film. Cooper was not sure about the direction of the film, especially when he was supposed to kill one of the criminals, and when the shot cut, Cooper spoke to the director, who told him that the screenwriter had been fired for his communist views, and instead they were going to the style of the new America. Then we return to the present, which is the future, meaning the ghoul has come. Will Zeke has a CX-404 and found his severed remains. Now he must find Lucy, and he suspects that she might be going in the direction of the city. Of course, Lucy's steps can be seen on the ground, so this could be clear evidence of her direction as well. As for Lucy, she is continuing on her normal walk through the wilderness and getting closer to the city. The radiator is far away, and she also ignores Will Zig's advice and lights a fire late at night. She is monitoring his brain, and for a moment something is on the side of his neck. At the same time, Maximus finds himself having to imitate Titus's voice while he is leaving in order to relieve the anxiety of his boss, who is speaking on the radio. Unfortunately, when he mentioned that his knight is Maximus, quickly followed him with a replacement for Maximus. He ruined the radio. Then he paid to get spare parts, which cost him a lot of glass caps because he lost a few teeth as well. When he returned to the shield, Maximus found himself surrounded by bandits who beat him and threw him on the ground. Unfortunately, they were also able to enter the shield, but before they could control it, Maximus returned and was able to break the skull of one of them using the brother's armor, and this move succeeded at the same time that reinforcements arrived, and Maximus had no choice but to put on the armor and pretend that he was Titus, and Thaddeus was the new knight, one of the young men who were bullying Maximus there, and he also brought a message from the high priest. It appears that this goal is priority number 1, because whoever controls it will also control the entire wilderness. Lucy arrived at the coast, and there she was confronted by a mutant monster, and Laura dragged her. But she was able to resist to some extent until the ogre appeared and pointed a weapon at her. Unfortunately, the fight is a brain and a husband that was stolen from this monster, and the ogre knows this creature is Gulper, and this is very bad news. Underneath in the vault, he moved around and was no longer the gatekeeper. As for Norman, he did not move, but he was assigned very humiliating tasks in which he participated inside the vault, including that he brought food to the bandits who were locked up in the cells. Though, speaking of humiliating tasks, Maximus took advantage of Thaddeus' presence with him and left him. He does what? He wants to get up a tree and get an apple, and in the end they find Will Zig's dead body. They are now on the right path and not far from the ghoul and Lucy. What was not on the ghoul's mind, the ghoul decided to use Lucy as bait in order to lure the monster so that a sticky brain can return. The plan actually worked, and we see the monster getting closer, a huge and ugly creature, but after Lucy killed him, the ghoul decided to let her walk with him. Well, all this was happening, Thaddeus started talking about his yes. It turns out that Thaddeus was the main punching bag in the Brotherhood, but when Maximus came as a new recruit, he tried to turn everyone's attention on him. He felt guilty because of this, that, and of course, I don't know that Maximus was inside the suit. In the end, they moved to the Jalabeer area and actually went to the water. It is clear that this jabber lived again and was ready to attack to kill. The first time this jabber attacked Maximus, he, Tate, and Wes worked together to eliminate the creature. And in the process, this creature became a group of thieves. Also, Brain, Zig, and CX404 were also here and started smelling around the brain. At the same time, Lucy found herself at the mercy of the ghoul, the one who rejected her hands and walked her through a radioactive city as they continued in front of Cooper, hitting someone from the Volt's signboard, and this is something personal for him because he used to make advertisements before that. The nuclear canal falls, and then we see Lucy and the ghoul walking in the Wasteland. They arrive at the West Side Medical Clinic, and there they find a second ghoul named Roger. The ground is full of the remains of empty ampoules, and he complains about people who have soft skin. Unfortunately, Roger was turning, so a cup fell on him and hit him in the brain, but before he could, the ghoul eats Roger, and Lucy is not at all happy with this brutality, but her bad luck also happens when the ghoul decides that she must help him and cook him bacon from this man and cut it up. She is beginning to understand the Wasteland now, and despite her previous insistence, she is forced to drink water from the dirty pond outside to quench her thirst. We return to the safe, and the elections are about to begin between Raj, Betty, and Woody to become the new president. They have not yet received any information from the bandits who are detained, and the young men are behaving normally. Everything was fine, but the one who is not like them is Norman, because he misses his father and sister, but because he is the last one left of the MacLachlan family. His voice carries a lot of weight, at least according to Betty. Norman's words. He is hidden from himself. He hid while the fight was on, but he took good advice to walk with caution. But those who knew after that something was happening in Safe 32, and this is something that is not completely innocent, and in fact, he is denied access to the records and all his suspicions. I was sure after I spoke to one of the prisoners that he had united with Chet, and they went inside again to see if they could understand Fall 32. But this time they saw well. The last sign of life that was revealed to one of the houseboys was 2 years ago. It is clear that the inhabitants of the vault had died a long time ago. Before the bandits, they appear to mean that something very evil is happening here, and from the way the bodies are stacked among them, it is clear that they killed each other. And it is written in blood on the side. We know the truth. When he saw President Norman's record, he discovered that the bandits entered using Rose MacLean's card, and the conspiracy is increasing. Lucy and the ghouls went to a supermarket, and there the shooter intends to sell Lucy in exchange for ampoules which prevent him from turning into a complete zombie and preserve part of his mind. What? Lucy entered the ghoul alone. He fell unconscious on the floor. The faces of the martyr. Lucy was shocked and taken to the medical clinic. There she took a new inebulum from a friendly robot named Snap Snap. Then she underwent labor and We saw that the robot was also intending to extract her organs. That's what it's called, but Lucy thought quickly and was able to control the robot. She threatened the bandits with a weapon, which was cleaning powder, with a snap, and let them free the ghouls in the cages, but some of them transformed, and Lucy had to kill one of the zombie women. She was the only survivor in everything that happened, but Lucy threw some ampoules for the ghoul outside, and she told him that she would never be like him. When Lucy walked away, the ghoul entered and found a treasure trove of ampoules, and the one who took them all for himself. The funny thing is that one of the videos was of Cooper in his cinema days, and he sat watching him and Maximus and Tate Wes in an abandoned Qatar station, and Maximus engraved the letter T on the back. Thaddeus. Maximus revealed himself behind the shield. Thaddeus immediately turned against his old colleague and thought that the brothers would kill him, so Maximus knew that he could not trust Thaddeus, so he decided to kill him at once, but Thaddeus was able to control the shield and took the fusion heart and left it alone, trapped inside the shield, and Maximus was unable to move Thaddeus. He walked with CX-404 and Will's brain was stuck, but fortunately Lucy saved Maximus. She eventually opened the iron gate, but Lucy was in a terrible state. She had radiation sickness and needed the ampoules to help her. Max introduced himself to her as the Knight Titus, not Maximus. After that, Lucy fainted after that. All the while, when she woke up, they agreed to work together while they were walking. Lucy told me how naive she was with the rest of the residents of the vault and how life was different. On the surface while they were walking, they ran alongside some travelers, and although they tried to act normal, they quickly discovered that they were in fact scoundrels. Scoundrels in Fallout, I mean. Cannibals, and Maximo thought quickly and killed them both and were shot with bullets, but with Maximus and Lucy in his armor. They arrived at Shady Sands, and Lucy was shocked when she learned that the population of this place was more than. After all, the day of redemption was what the residents of the vault had hoped for and were determined to achieve, but this actually happened. There were more people on the surface than she expected, meaning all her information was a lie. Maximus tried to calm her expectations and showed her that the entire city had been blown off the map after a huge explosion. Lucy discovered that Maximus was bleeding badly and that his scratch was not a scratch at all. The two of them walked quickly and reached Hawthorne Medical Laboratories. Lucy was determined to find her a first aid kit, but of course anything could be inside. Lucy ran in front and Maximo walked a little behind her. Unfortunately, the two of them were arrested and fell in an unexpected place, a safe. At the same time, Norman and Chet continued their search in Safe 32 for any answers, believing that Lucy's pet boy had been stolen by bandits, but it is clear that the residents of the vault were trying to reach Vault 31. But I wonder why this was a mystery postponed for a second day. Because they decided to return home and they were returning. It was election day for the new head of the vault. Webby won by a large margin, but it is clear that there is a bigger mystery. Norm noticed that all the presidents who were elected, their history, they all came from Vault 31. And they did the same thing to Vault 32. Normal also believes that there is something more evil, and he is determined to find out what it is. A meeting with Tarek took place in Vault 32, and Betty decided that they must resettle Vault 32, and he began to build resources. He and I moved around so that they could start over, and Norman left. He spoke to Betty alone, and I explained to him that Lucy had buried her Pip-Boy as well as Hank's, and that Pip-Boy is a recording device, but we know that this is not true, and this strengthens the suspicion that everything is not perfect in this safe. After that, we see a Cooper Howard advertisement for safes on a black and white background. Specifically, they were talking about Vault 4. This place is full of scientists, and there will be 80 scientists in it, and they will conduct an experiment for 5 years. Thus, indicates the place where Maximus and Lucy are. being held, but now we are following Cooper as he lives a luxurious life and continues his role as the face of Beanstalk, and we hear the recorded voice at Snape Snape. This was originally the voice of 3 Codes Worth is an old owner of Cooper and sold the rights to his voice. He said that this apocalypse is a product in itself and they must be ready to sell it. The war is coming and Cooper cannot believe what is happening. He saw that people around him began to believe in the safe and do what they can to protect themselves, and also Barb, his wife, did what she could to get a place for his family in one of the closets, and we see Cooper going toward to defend freedom, and he sees that the closets are burning, and his blue suit and their laws, which contain the word no dogs are allowed to do this, and we go back to the future, and the ghoul finds himself arrested by government agents, and they took him to their chief hunter. They brought the ogre to someone named Sorrel. Of course heard about the ogre, and they were sitting together inside the bar. The ogre was able to sew his finger again, and they sat together while the ogre drove off to the Maldives, which was clearly very dangerous. Sorrel considered himself the boss here and was wrong when he trusted the ogre and told his men to be put down. They had their guns, and with the speed of lightning, the ogre stopped and killed them both. Now, at the bottom of the bar, there was a wanted poster for Maldives. It appeared that Cooper knew her, and this came from memories of when she knew herself why she was his biggest fan. At the same time, Luce and Maximo were locked in the safe and repaired. It was clear that they would stay for a few hours just to make sure there is no radiation. Lucy was naive about this and decided to settle down, but when the camera moved outside, we saw that they were inside a room with the subjects of the experiments written on it. Lucy and Maximus met the president, and it was clear that he had his eye on them. But quickly it became clear that there were many people inside the safe, and they looked like some kind of human hybrids, and Lucy was surprised. In the safe, she spoke to the president in his office with the utmost frankness, and he said that they call those who live on the roof service, and he does not like to follow their thugs. When Lucy brought the level 12 walker, which the president had previously said was forbidden, he immediately told her to walk after he left. As so, Maximus was also curious to know, what is this safe in? He discovered that there were a lot of merging hearts occupying the place. They quickly encouraged him to go to Unit 428 to take a hot shower and enjoy what the safe had to offer. He agreed and was happy. There was a basket in which there were the usual things from Fallout, and things like sugar bombs. Those who had played the game certainly knew it. At the same time, Lucy, by chance, returned to class and found a model of Shady Sands. He actually found a timetable written on the blackboard as well, and discovered that the vault was controlled by NCR, the New California Republic. In general, Lucy and the rest of the vault residents called a meeting because there is a tradition called the rooftop residence. This tradition includes that everyone, they take off their clothes and worship the Mother of Flame, which includes ritual chants, covering themselves with substances, and also drinking blood. All of this remains very shocking, especially for Lucy, who came here but is watching. Lucy did not get anything done with Maximus, so she went to the 12th floor to prove that something is here. Lucy is determined to break the ideal image. He has a safe, and what is very clear is that it is not the utopia that was expected. Unfortunately, when one of the scientists appeared, Lucy was exposed and she was tired trying to get out of my bird. The leader here was able to control Lucy, and Maximo did not know what was in his room. Then we see 2 homeless people using metal detectors to look for things in the sand. They were lead farmers, and unfortunately when they returned home, they found the ghoul eating in the kitchen. The big man in the house was not happy, but he agreed to answer Cooper's questions. It turns out that Tommy, the farmer's son, is involved with the Maldives and its gang. He is a strong believer in its slogan of reforming the world. Unfortunately, he also roped his big brother Rufus in this conversation. And now he died because of the ghoul, Tommy said. That Maldive was up in the observatory, but because of his strong beliefs in his finger, who was scratching him on the trigger, took a bullet in his stomach for the problems he had brought. And we go back to the past, and Cooper got into a fight with Maldive, who told him that she knew this guy. He caught his attention, and they walked together while they were together. Okay, Barb explained that America had been locked in a war over resources for more than 10 years, and Full Tech had bought the means to end this war, and she wanted to help him so that they could get back to their bad luck. She also explained how those who were not communists were definitely crazy now. Cooper actually put a bugging device on the baby boy when he returned home and decided to find out exactly what his wife was hiding. Actually touched him and preferred to monitor Barb. From that time, at the same time, Lucy was tied to the inside of the safe, and here was the tape that belonged to the scientists, including President Hawthorne, who were all under the attack of one of the jabbers in the other. He escaped. And now it is clear that what they are doing is cross-breeding humans with radiation-resistant species in order to try to make them able to withstand high radiation. But these experiments went wrong when the creatures killed the scientists, and it turned out that the vault had actually been taken over by the creatures, and they asked about the experiments that were happening in the Vault 33, and when Lucy said there is nothing like this, it was enough reason for her to be arrested, and they took her by running from Maximus' room while he was standing eating popcorn and busy himself. To free her, Lucy was not difficult to get along with, especially since they brought her in front of the whole vault and sacrificed her because she caused the accident while she was condemned to death. She rose to the roof, and the sword that was supposed to be used by the president in order to cut off her brain, they used it to cut off her shackles instead of cutting off her head. They even gave her supplies for 2 weeks as well. And Lucy asked Maximus to stay in the safe. Maximus did not know this, and instead he locked the hearts. Maggie used one for the shield and entered the brother's shield and began to destroy the place. Lucy stopped him in the text. He apologized embarrassingly. In the end, he walked away after he stole the heart. Lucy was not happy with him. In the end, she convinced him. The heart returned. Maximus felt that he was naked without the armor, but he agreed. Lucy gave him words of encouragement, and they decided to go out and search for Wolf's brain. Another place, Thaddeus found a gas station. He went to his side and decided to leave the CX-404 with a can of Nuka-Cola. After the dog ran after him, Thaddeus heard the radio and arrived at a pharmacy. There, the doctor agreed to treat him for a fusion heart. After that, Thaddeus got his leg removed again and returned it to the same condition as the first. Also found a direction guide to Shady Sands, Dr. Jerry, and the ghoul. He was able to find the CX-404 and use it. In order to walk after Thaddeus, he named the dog. Thaddeus was able to use the radio, but he was waiting for his knee to hit his neck. Yes? Happened exactly when Lucy and Maximus arrived. It turned out that the mixture that the doctor made turned out to make him a ghoul, which means that he can now recover from wounds that could have been fatal, but he will also need the ampoules to finish. Maximus agreed to give him a chance to walk. In the end, Maximus bid farewell to Lucy, and she ran along, saying, "You will go to Safe 33, and we will return to Safe 33. Things took an unexpected turn. The bandits all died from the furnace poison. Of course, this was my household's work. Then they quickly distributed the tasks to reproduce and change the tanks. Cheeto and Sandra are going to Vault 32, and Norman will stay in Vault 33. After the residents are new, they are forced to enter his new vault. Norman entered the president's office in good health and decided to find out what was happening. He used the computer and sent a message to the head of Vault 31. Jala responded quickly and was able to go there after he said that the mission was I was exposed to danger while he was standing in front of the door of the safe. 31 it opened and Norman entered inside, and in the ground was devastation. His two brothers, the Steel. I caught Maximus on his way back to the base. He was ready to do what he could to return to Lucy and the one she asked him to find her in the safe. 33 and after all the experiences that Maximus went through, he returned as a man. Differently, he walked up to the commander and presented him with the head. They was also there. Unfortunately, Maximus quickly revealed that it was a fake because he brought the wrong head to their leader, Danny. In the end, he declared his loyalty to Maximus and begged the commander not to kill him. The commander was surprised by his look of loyalty, and Maximus then told the truth, indicating that Titus died as a coward and a deserter, and promised that he will be presented to heaven, and the commander decided that Maximus would be his assistant and leave the Wasteland, and since he had been looking for a house all his life, this was a very tempting offer for Maximus. There is only one thing: his heart is now with Lucy, and since we are talking about Lucy, she appeared at the base of the Mall of Devere and headed straight to her father, who is still alive and locked in a cage at the Devere Mall. I offered her food and encouraged her to sit down and join them. Lucy gave her the severed head while she was digging something on the side. She asked for her father to come back. She agreed, but before that, she promised to reveal exactly how she knew her father. And here we find out what Hank's secret is at this time. Please, Lucy, don't listen to any of Moldova's words. He wasn't born in the vault, and this goes back to what he found in Vault 31. What came out was a rain in a jar. I knew that. Norman had 50 of Hank's DNA, but it's not my house either. After that, Norman stepped on a button. He was shocked when he found something called bad buds. Basically, these are test tube babies raised specifically to complete humanity. We go back to a flashback in the past when Cooper followed Barb and did not see her. Voltage headquarters there knew that the company was conspiring against the world and decided that they could live longer than the rest by arranging the end, and in this way they would not need to fight. The group disagreed on the best way forward, but Barb was one of them. And Hank was listening. He believed that Barb would do the right thing. Until Sura came up with the idea of 3 connected lockers 31 to 33. Barb decided that with 100 safes in America, each one of them could use it as a scientific experiment to see who has it better. The idea of human salvation. As for the 3 tanks we have, Vault 31 is full of managers who are in a biological freeze, and Vaults 32 and 33 are breeding pools full of selected people. They are genetically selected to mate with the bads in order to produce a class of super managers, people who will inherit the earth after the surface is cleaned from the second of these experiments. They will all be purified. We may have discovered it now. The bombs were dropped with the intention of the government in order to create a real monopoly. Now, Hank Lucy was actually the new assistant to Barbie, whom we heard a lot about, and they spoke the words of Barb. War does not change, and we return to the present and began to understand more. It turns out that Danny was the one who intentionally cut himself with a razor because he was afraid. He goes out into the wild. As for the Maldive, why did they kidnap Hank in the first place? It all started with Lucy Rose's mother. She was smart and discovered that there was something to draw water from the tanks. Thought that perhaps civilization had returned to the surface again, and decided to leave them in order to prove her correct theory. Hank saw that this idea was ridiculous, so she ran away. When she knew that it was he hides things, and Lucy and Norman grew up with their mother outside the tanks when they were young and strong, but Hank came after Lucy and burned the city to the ground and took the children and forcefully entered the tanks. All of this is due to full tech and their way of dealing with competition. They simply destroy anyone who stands in their way. Hank and Defer Mall are now competing on Lucy's morals, which is swaying now. But what was the shock that happened to Rose? Turned out that she turned into a ghoul while she was sitting there at the table. I mean, Betty and Hank's story about burying her were books and the cold fusion inside. Whoa. Zig's neck was the key to unlocking civilization and starting over, and Lucy usurped her father's hands with the code. And so on. A chain reaction began that made the computers work, and when the cold fusion reached 100 and was fully operational, she was going to press the button until the alarm sounded on me and his brothers, Alphalas, Jim, and when fighting broke out between the two factions, his brothers, the Foulas and NCR, Lucy, realized that yes, indeed, the war had not changed, and when his brothers, the Foulas, entered the headquarters, they found the ghoul waiting for them. He knew that the armor had a weakness in the chest plate, and he killed one of the soldiers very easily. With the lights turned off, the ghoul quickly finished off them all, and the fight moved to the roof of the building. Maximus appeared and spoke to Lucy. Maximus freed Hank from the cage, but his behavior changed when he knew that Hank was responsible for the attack. What actually happened in Shady Suns while they were talking? Hank put on his brother's steel armor and hit Max, and asked Dosi to come with him. Instead, she grabbed a gun, and then the ogre appeared and Cooper confronted Hank and asked to know where his family was. Instead, Hank flew off the roof and ran away. Unfortunately, he didn't get any answers, and we left with a big mystery that we are really dealing with. Decided that he and Lucy would ally themselves with each other and go look for Hank and anything else that he might be hiding, including meeting those who experimented on them. Lucy grabbed the gun and killed her mother. In order to relieve Rose from her torment, she joined the chains and escorted the passed-out Max and said goodbye to him, and we returned to Norman, who he found himself locked in safe 31. Only solution is that he sleeps inside one of the devices and we don't see more of him because we really focused on Max as he escapes after the fight. Then we find Maldives still alive and he completes the word Rose before she presses the button on the computer and turns on cold fusion, which is the electricity for the city. The person next to them, but Maldives' turn ended. What? She bled on the ground, and after she died, Dan appeared and thought that Max was the one who killed Maldives and treated him like a hero. He began to change here and could not stand the roof. Instead, he was more worried about what his Steel brothers could do with their infinite strength at the time. Same as Lucy and the chains. They arrived in the wasteland that is Hollywood, and they were walking. Hank was cut off, and whoever was able to reach the Vegas settlers, and here the first season of Fallout ends, and we meet in a new summary.